How do you guys think the pyramids were built?
Aliens.
Besides aliens.
Three Sheets to the Wind coming at you with another podcast. It's another week. Yes, sir. Gus just took a hit of that hitter, dude.
Sniffing salt.
The old hitter.
We should pass it around.
It's your boys. It's your boys, Eli, Nick, and Gus. And we got our guest Malachy back for a second week.
Second week.
Going on.
What up,
We're all
homies?
going to take a quick hit just to get us in the right.
Drugs.
That's disgusting.
The drugs
Why
do
do
them,
you do just
okay?
one nostril?
Because the ones.
What is it? Norse?
It's
and what's
Norse
the legit
smelling
name?
salts.
Smelling salt.
Odin
thing,
is with
right?
us.
Is that what it's called?
Odin is with
Smelling
us.
salt.
Zone.
Formulated on the market.
So it's you're not
Makes
natty?
you feel like you could just jack a steel.
See, sometimes
My name's Steele.
sometimes it's not so bad.
Have you guys ever heard of Gloria Cecilia Ramirez?
Yes.
Have you?
Mm-mm.
No, but say it like you're like f***ing passionate about it.
You gonna cut this part out?
Yell. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to cut this part out.
Gloria Cecilia Ramirez.
Yes, perfect.
I
Keep
think
going.
I think
Keep that
it's
energy.
Spanish, but whatever.
Do the voice thing. Just
Yeah,
say
the whole
name.
time.
The entire time.
No, Google plays
That's Italian.
I know, but it works. Right, you want me to Gloria Cecilia Ramirez?
And you come to my side of the block, home.
See, that's racist. I can't do that. I can do the Italian one though.
You come to my
That
side
makes
of the
no
block,
sense.
home.
One eternity later.
Wait, so basically what you could have said, Gus,
She had toxic blood.
she had toxic blood. She tried to rub whatever chemical it was on her body that made her skin toxic to everyone else. And therefore,
I thought it was interesting. I thought you guys would
Nick-
find it interesting, but apparently not.
Therefore, Nick, would you say...
Your buddy hooks up with her. They're going out on dates frequently.
And he gets
He
radiation
He
AIDS.
spills
Dude.
it to you. He's like, yeah, dude, I've been going out with this chick, Gloria, or whatever her name was. And you're like, dude, don't go out with her. She's toxic AF.
No.
Dude, that's like how you
Red
start the
flag.
zombie apocalypse. That's like a story, like how you start that.
Yeah,
That's not a thing.
yeah. She makes her way.
Like if you were
out.
Zombies are
making a
real.
zombie show and you came up with that as the beginning episode, I'd believe it.
Dude, my mom,
I'd believe it.
my mom gave it to me, or I bought a book. And
I think
the
you bought
book-
it.
I don't remember, but it was a book written all about zombies, like legit, real things that happened. And it dated all the way back to the Roman
The
Empire,
Walking Dead.
where they just had accounts.
What is his
of-
name, Rick?
They had accounts of stories where apparently
Oh,
they went through all these manuscripts and stuff of like what soldiers wrote down and this and that, and all the way back to the Roman Empire. And there was an account where they said that they were in Rome, and there was just this giant mass of people coming towards Rome. So they're like, oh shit, we're being invaded. So all the troops go running out there, right? They're all in formation, ready to fight. And as the army's getting closer, they start seeing there's just like, it's all like civilians. They can tell, like farmers and, you know, people of that sort walking towards them. And they just like, they said the stench was like horrible. Like it smelled like dead people, you know, rotting flesh, this, that. And as they just start getting closer, the Roman soldiers are telling, like, when they're writing all this stuff down, they're like, it was literally just like dead people, like rotting flesh, their faces falling off, missing limbs, coming towards them. And they fought and killed all these zombies, as they say. And they had all this written down. And this was in the book. And the book had from the Roman Empire, like up to current day, accounts of zombies written in it. And I read that when I was like 13 or 14.
I could see something like that being real, where you have like a brain disease,
Like
but
leprosy?
you eat every type of meat. It's not like you just see a human and
You know,
that's all you want.
you just described? You just described the barbarians.
No, dude, they said like legitimate dead people was what the Romans in their manuscripts were writing down. How true is this? I don't know. I'm not saying I believe it, but that's just. I wish I had the book to read it to you because it sounded pretty legit.
Like they smelled bad.
They smelled bad. They
looked like
worse.
peasants.
Civilians in the
Civilians, yeah, farmers, and they were all dead. Just a big mass of them, all coming towards Rome.
Yeah, it was probably the Huns.
Stinky ass Huns.
All right. Well, that's all.
Speaking of the Romans,
Oh,
did you
I
know
thought
when the
you were gonna
Romans
say
entered
spaghetti.
Egypt, the span between us and the Romans is closer than the span between the Romans and when the pyramids were built?
You put that in English for us.
Yeah, what are you
What do
getting
you
at?
mean?
No, I
So-
get what you're saying.
No, you don't.
No, I do.
The Romans,
The
when
time
they
frame from us to the Romans
is
is
shorter than
it
the
is
Romans.
from the time frame from the pyramids to the Romans.
Yeah, when they were built. That's how old the pyramids are.
Oh, you know how I watched
Wow.
a video once.
Super old.
So
Speaking of the pyramids, I watched a video once. So how I want to ask all three of you.
Was
guys.
it in your zombie book?
No, yeah. It was. How? I told you I don't know if I believe that.
I know.
It was just a book. It was
It's worth
interesting.
it. It's a
cool
good
to
story.
read about it. How do you guys think the pyramids were built? Starting from Gus to Eli to Nick.
Cranes.
Ooh, best for last.
Cranes.
They
What do you
shipped
think?
Yeah.
they shipped it down the
Cranes?
Nile.
I think it would.
They shipped. Hold on,
They-
let Gus finish.
They put all the there was I don't know the exact name, but there was somewhere the stone all comes from south of where Egypt is. All the stone came from
Carthage?
south, and the only way they could have
Was it?
what?
Carthage?
Carthage?
Was it?
No, Carthage is west of.
Is it?
Yeah, it's way west of Egypt.
Okay, so Gus says they shipped stones.
They
on
shipped
boats.
stone from south north up the river, and then they just carried it all. They just transported it all on logs. Well, once they
Like-
get it on land, they just rolled it over logs, and then once it's off the log, somebody picks up that log, brings it to the front, and puts it down, and then they just lifted it all up with pyramids
Okay, now how do you think that was built?
or with cranes.
So are you saying like how it was built itself?
How
or
did
like
they
the
build?
transportation
How did
from
they
stone to?
whatever you want to say? How did they build the pyramids?
I'm
Same
pretty
thing.
with him, but I think what they would do if they did do it with logs, like trying to get it there,
Yeah.
I think they'd have like a pulley system further away so that it had a back pressure and then a bunch of people pushing as well.
Okay, now
So it'd make it more efficient.
now Nick, how do you think they built the pyramids?
That's what Gus said.
In a way, but I pretty much agree with God.
Nick, how do you think they built the pyramids?
Alien.
Besides aliens.
Well, they built it from the ground up.
Okay, how'd they do that?
With aliens.
Cranes. They kept setting up cranes and kept going up.
Now think about
Well,
this.
no, they used what they're saying. They used the logs and they moved these big stone blocks and they just
Yeah, and they built a
I think
giant
they were
ramp.
all, dude,
That
think
is
of
the
how
most-
jacked they would
No,
be with
listen.
They
slave
built a
labor.
giant.
that-
They built a giant ramp.
That is the most common theory of how the pyramids were built. That's what everybody says. I watched this video and it was really descriptive. And the Egyptians were super smart.
They were.
Okay.
They had batteries. Did you
The
know that?
sites around the pyramids were all excavated, landscaped almost. Like they didn't just find a spot and build these babies. They landscaped the whole area before they built the pyramids on them. And the metric system comes from the Egyptians. They first invented it by trying to take something universal and measuring it so that everybody, no matter what they did, if they used this measurement, would have the same measurement as
Result.
everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
They took a drop of water, just one single drop of water, and they measured it. That's 1 millimeter. Just a drop of the water is a millimeter. And then they took that and just went, 10 drops, that's a centimeter. 100 drops, that's a meter? 100 centimeters is a meter or something
That's
like
how
that.
they made it?
That's how they made the Egyptians first started using that measurement system. By the metric system, down to a millimeter is based off of
A
a drop of water.
Yeah.
The length of a drop of water. So they used this system to measure, do this and that. They were really good architects. They were really smart. And now if you think about it, when they built the pyramids, perfectly square blocks. All right? All stacked up into a perfect triangle shape. What happens inside the pyramids or what they were for, I don't know. I didn't look that far into it. Tombs, or some people say there was quartz on top, quartz on the bottom, and when sunlight would shine through it, it would reflect off the quartz on the bottom and hit the quartz at the top and illuminate the whole inside of the pyramid. When they built these bad boys, and this was, I don't know if this was more or less a theory in the video or how they actually did it, but everybody thinks the Romans were the first ones to come up with like concrete. When the Romans got it from the Egyptians.
Yeah, I could
The
see
Egyptians gathered materials, just like you would think. Like, this makes so much sense when you hear it. They gathered all the materials they needed, and they would cast forms, right? So first the base layer, they cast forms. They poured individual blocks. They would they had a ton of limestone over there, right? And that's like in concrete.
yeah.
They use a lot of limestone.
Yeah, low chert.
And they would mix it all in, right? Set the forms, make a block. Then they make forms off the next block. And that's why the blocks are so perfectly square
Yeah, they're all the
and
same,
lined
you're
up.
saying?
Right. And it
Yeah.
looks like, how would they cut perfect blocks and line them
They just
all up
made 'em
perfectly? No,
instead.
they just poured them.
Yeah.
So base layer all the way up. They formed it, poured it, and they just built the pyramids basically using like a concrete system. But it was more or less like a cement, because
What blows my mind is how it goes up in an angle. You'd have to have like a support to get it to set so that the top doesn't fall in, right?
yeah, but think about it. They have big solid like logs and blocks of woods that they shaved like to lumber, usable lumber. And they stuck that in there. They used that as support and stuff, and they just left it in there. Like, there was a guy going through the pyramids, and he's taking videos, and there's wood that goes into the blocks. They're like, they didn't chisel a square out and stick it in there.
It was
Like, they
part of the
poured it,
form,
right.
yeah.
It was part of the form. Like, me and you know that. We've done concrete. Sometimes the wood, you just leave it in there.
I didn't
It
know
gets
they were
stuck.
that advanced, but that's pretty cool.
Doesn't that make a lot more sense?
Yeah.
They literally just made forms and poured these.
It does make sense, but
Yeah.
is that what the blocks look like? Because obviously none of us have been there. Do
The
they
blocks
look
are just
they
like
could be made?
They're like perfectly square. And a lot of people
Do they
were
have like a wood like print in them, on the side?
I'm not sure.
I mean, how many years have they been?
Yeah, it could have gotten
I know the
eroded
inside
off.
should maybe still have some, but you can almost
Well,
not
and the
tell that
inside
even
still
if it's concrete.
the inside has wood inside the
Who
blocks.
knows what they
Like,
made it with, and did they file it down to make it? Like, how much work did they actually put in?
I don't.
it,
They
you know?
they
How
knew,
smooth did they want it? Did they file it
Yeah.
down with
Yeah.
whatever?
I don't think so.
They
They just
tried
did.
to make it perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
'cause
that's
it
what
was-
I'm saying. They probably would have had them file down any wood grain that was in the,
Right,
the
and
concrete if they were that anal.
And
about
think
it.
about it. It was more or less like a cement block. It wasn't necessarily concrete, so it was actually like really easy to shape it and stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
I bet you if you went over there
less
with
aggregate and more.
yeah, if you went up there with a sledgehammer, you could probably bust some of those blocks apart, no problem. Like, they're not
Should we do it?
super strong, but
Yeah,
against
get
like
shot.
the weather
Yeah,
and
if you
stuff,
get
they're
shot.
fine. But they just formed
That's awesome.
they formed this whole pyramid, literally just like a
Do they have a lot
construction
of security?
site, and they just
Yeah.
had guys dumping materials in it and water
I saw
and
a
mixing
video
it
of
up and formed it all the way up into a pyramid.
I
Did
saw
you
a
know?
video of a dude who climbed to the top, and there were guards at the bottom yelling at him to get down.
Yeah, 'cause
and he
it's
got
illegal.
arrested.
Why couldn't you just chill up there?
Another
Yeah,
thing,
Good, but-
They'd never get them.
people say that the pyramids, like there's the cone on top. They say there's also a cone in the ground.
What?
It's like more or less. It's like what is that shape? A trapezoid?
Yeah, it's kind of like a tree.
Or
How
like
the
a-
roots,
Well, it's like
the roots are just
as
as
big as you see
big
the
as
pyramid
the-
on the top
They dug
is
it
as
out
big
from
as the
bottom?
pyramid is on bottom.
What?
Damn.
Yeah.
And there's 3 of them, right?
Oh, there's a ton of them. There's
No, there's- yeah,
pyramids.
Giza,
There
which
aren't
is
only
the 3 big ones,
yeah.
and then there's other pyramids throughout.
there aren't only pyramids in Egypt. There's pyramids all over
They
the
were
planet.
tombs.
Yeah, they're
tombs.
South
Yeah, they're
America.
tombs. Not,
And supposedly-
not,
Or I think
Pharaohs.
North America too.
no
right?
one used them for like
Aztecs.
housing or nothing.
No, they were tombs for the pharaohs, and a
Yeah.
lot of them are booby trapped
in the
like, to this
in,
day.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sick.
in the video I saw, apparently there's pyramids all over the planet, and they perfectly follow like a line on the equator or whatever the
Aliens.
line is on the Earth, that they're all perfectly in line. But some people were arguing like, okay, there's so many landmarks on the planet that you could draw a line around it and there'd be so many of them in a perfect line. But that was an argument somebody had. But
You know what hieroglyphics are, Eli?
Pyroglyphics?
Hieroglyphics.
No.
It's like ancient text from the Egypts. That
Oh
are, like,
yeah,
written
yeah,
on
yeah.
walls.
They're
There's
on
like
the walls.
there's like pictures of like flying saucers and stuff.
Flying sausage.
yeah, I've seen that too, Nick.
Did you know the
That's why the
pyramids?
aliens-
No, there's not.
Look it up.
If you look at the pyramids from above them, they're where they are located. It's like the exact same as like a motherboard in a computer.
How they're located?
Yeah, like the
how
main
they're
components or
spaced
whatever,
out.
how they're spaced out and everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Like from an aerial view, you're
Yeah.
saying?
yeah,
Huh.
they're like they're in the exact spots of where
Oh, another
The
thing.
So they
important
could have
components
used
in a
it
motherboard
for like
is-
I don't know, like for almost like an electrical current, sort
they
of.
might. Yeah,
Could've,
they
like,
could have.
something
Like it
like
could have
that.
been like a giant
Like
grid.
a controlled something.
Yeah.
A part of the video too is explain that why I brought up the metric system was because when they measure the pyramids, it has like perfect tolerances with absolutely no give to them. Like perfectly 1,000 meters long, perfectly 1,000 meters tall, diagonally.
Yeah,
Obviously,
you have
but-
to if it's gonna meet
But
up.
like,
Well,
How
like
was
that's
it-
how they built them. They built them so perfectly
Precise.
and precisely using their system they came up with, which eventually evolved into the metric system. That some people think it's like unhuman.
how's it that
Yeah,
perfect
that's
if they had
crazy.
slaves building it?
Because I think that'd be better than just normal laborers.
I don't think so.
Well,
'cause
you're-
slaves,
you're
you can
beating
make 'em do
You're
that.
beating them if they don't work.
Like if you
And
force
or
somebody to
you
do
die.
something, they're not gonna.
You gotta
do it
think
that
about
well.
it this way though. The way movies often portray it is like these guys are slaves. They hate the guards, and the guards constantly hate them. Think about like if you were the master and I was your slave, and
Well,
I
it's
was your
happened
slave
in-
for
it's
like
happened in
30
history.
years. Don't you think we'd develop some sort of a relationship?
But like it's happened, like
It
in World War II
depends.
when the Japanese
It depends on
captured
what
a bunch
kind
of
of
American prisoners and they had them build a railroad from
And it was shit.
Yeah, but that wasn't
some
30
place
years
to,
like he
to
was saying.
Thailand or something, and the American soldiers would hijack it. They'd like stick logs underground so then when the train comes over, it derail.
Yeah, because they
But
didn't.
like I don't think they would.
They didn't
make it
accept
to the
yet.
best they
But I
could.
think eventually people just accept
think
the
they just said, "Oh,
circumstances.
you know,
I,
that
well,
they
I
were."
think
Right, back
they
in-
accept
but-
it,
I
and they're
think
like,
back
the only
then
way I'm
it
getting
was
out of this is
probably
if I
like-
just do it.
You got a meal. Well, like they didn't even want to leave. If you remember in the Bible, they
Yeah.
didn't even want to leave Egypt because they had it. They say they had it good. You know,
'Cause, you know, they ate
that's
every
what they
day.
used because they had food every day, and all they had to do was do it like a
They
decent
just have
job.
to work, right?
But they weren't smart.
and that's
And,
all.
like-
That's all you know though, because you've been taken from what age, and
Yeah.
all you know is doing that work.
Well, since
so
birth,
eventually you're gonna
most
get.
of them.
Eventually, everyone in that race is gonna do the same work, right? So they're gonna
Yeah.
all know that, and that's all you know
like to
is
get
doing a
it
good
that
job
perfect
gets you
though,
food.
it's something fishy about it.
I just think that the Egyptian slaves, who I wonder what nationality their slaves were. I don't know that, but the Egyptian slaves, after doing this stuff for so long, like they're not necessarily like determined to do the best job they can, but they obviously develop a relationship with the Egyptians, and they're like, well, I don't know. I guess I'll, like I'm just gonna do it. What else am I gonna do? Like, they're stuck being a slave. It's not like they're just gonna mope around and be,
Yeah.
or else they get beat or whatever. But
Yeah.
they develop a relationship where like they're kind of good with each other. They're like, I do good for you, you do good for me.
Yeah.
And then so when they're building these pyramids, it's not like they constantly got a guy cracking a whip on their back. They're like, all right, boys, let's just get this done so that these guys are happy with us.
Yeah.
Like to that aspect.
Yeah, like a foreman.
Yeah. Like what I was thinking before is that that's where engineers came from for like the intricate stuff. Once they were getting to a certain angle they needed done, that's where like their guys took over and made sure that part was done right. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's when they really got on them. But when they were just like making formed concrete, they don't care as long as the form's right. So they watch certain stuff, and the rest of it they kind of leave them alone. Because what do you got to do? You got to step on like the concrete, pack it down, and make a form out of it. they don't need to be as tight, you know. But when they need something to line up perfectly, that's where they're going to be a part of.
And the
Egyptians themselves,
yeah.
so that everything's done right.
The Egyptian foremans probably had guys too, like out of the slaves that they're like, okay, this guy's
They
pretty
did.
smart.
I'm pretty sure they
Yeah,
did.
they're like, this
thought-
guy's pretty smart. Like, you do good for me. Like, you help me out. Like, I'm gonna help you out. Like that kind of
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, I thought they had like actual like tattletalers or snitches almost.
Right. They probably
Probably,
definitely
yeah.
had guys.
That like, oh, you get it a little easier today, or
Right, it's
for
like,
the week if you tell me who does what, and that's how you. If you have that many people, that's how you eliminate like any sort of.
Well, that's what the
screwing
Germans
around.
did in the concentration camps.
And how'd it go?
They had
They killed them anyways.
No,
no, they had-
yeah, you know what?
Yeah, they had
That's probably
snitches.
where I
people
heard it.
called.
is
I
from.
think they were called capos. I think.
Yeah.
But they were like pretty much like leaders in.
Yeah,
the,
you could just get.
and the guards hated them and the prisoners hated them, but they would like make sure there were no riots or people stealing or anything, and they would get like special stuff like more food, more alcohol.
Yeah.
Oh, they
But-
got alcohol.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. But yeah, dude, it's
Alcohol's,
crazy. It's
yeah.
crazy. Okay, so that brings us. Remember when you said last week, if you don't learn history, you're doomed to repeat it. Even though that's like cheesy and we've all heard it.
Yeah.
Like isn't that crazy how that could have been like the same thing?
Well, it's like in the
You know, like you
Yeah. Like
Egypt did the similar like slave
You
labor
think
through
Egypt
that.
was like the Nazis.
Not completely and totally, but I mean maybe because they wanted a goal. I don't know if they ever wanted like world domination or anything, but they wanted their buildings. That was their goal. So they pretty much did whatever they wanted, and they kind of killed whoever they needed to get to the good people. Who
I think Rome was more like the Nazis.
yeah,
Yeah, not probably until.
but
like,
weren't there better
Constantine or-
emperors than? Yeah, there were better
like,
emperors.
until the religious rulers started getting in there, and then like the Pope
Why do you think Rome
hopped
was
on
more?
board in Rome, and they
Was
started
what?
becoming like goody two shoes. But
Was-
Yeah, why do you
Rome?
think Rome was more
I think when
Nazi
Rome-
than?
I think
They
Rome.
tried to conquer the world.
Yeah, when Rome was first founded,
Oh,
they were
that
like,
way?
yeah, they were
They
like,
killed
they didn't
everybody
give
that-
they didn't give a crap about anything. They were like,
But they
we're
took
gonna do
care of
whatever
like
we
the
want,
Jews
whenever
and
we
everyone
want.
who was around them, right? Or no? Didn't
They
they
freaking
take care of
killed
most of the
everybody.
Prisoners?
civilians that they like the cities they took over? Didn't
They
they
made them
take care
join
of
the
them?
army.
yeah they
Yeah,
governed them. Yeah.
But that's not as bad as like just hey everyone hop into a shower or
They
let's
probably
gas
killed a
all you.
lot of them.
They only killed people who resisted. If you like
Or
the
who
Germans
couldn't
didn't.
fight.
Did
I mean,
they?
the Germans were worse, I think. Like, they had this hatred for Jews, Catholics, and religious people, but I still think the Romans killed a lot of people.
Yeah, they
That
I
did.
think they probably mostly
But how much
enslaved.
do we know about Egyptians and how they ran really? So it
Nah,
We don't know a lot.
We
could have
don't
been
know a lot
worse,
about the Romans
but we
either,
don't know
but-
that. But I think that's how they definitely got the work done with.
And, like, it depends on the emperor, too. Like, his rules for engagement and stuff, but... Because Germany only had one leader.
I mean, look at Nero. He burned down what all of Rome,
Half of
or whatever,
Rome,
or
or-
half of
Half
Rome
of
to
Rome,
try
yeah.
and get to the Christians. Just you got to power, and then
He's worse than Hitler?
My question is, you know,
no, dude, it's not like it's. You can't really say that, but that's another history thing, you know.
my question is about
You
Nero.
don't learn from
like,
smooth talking people.
comparing him kind of to our own like government now. How did somebody like him, who was clearly
Nero, you're saying?
insane? Yeah, Nero. Somebody like him,
Well,
who was
Because they didn't have
clearly
it. Wasn't he just
insane.
like the heir?
Didn't they do election? Or
No,
they
I thought
had-
it. I thought
they
he was
had a
the heir.
council for like they had like councils for sectors that would vote for.
Yeah, but I think after
Can you look it
Julius
up, Nick?
Caesar,
Are you looking at
Oh,
it?
it was
the Senate
theirs.
wasn't really a thing.
I didn't
It's
know.
like
I
the
thought it
British
was like a
Parliament
family.
today.
I thought it was like your family. You kind of went down the line in a certain way. I thought it
Right.
branched
I think
out.
after-
So you got different.
I think after Caesar took Rome, it was kind of like how the British Parliament is today.
The adopted son of Claudius.
And he was the emperor
so
before.
because he was adopted, he became emperor
Yeah,
just down
pretty
the
much.
line.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, so he wasn't his
And
actual son. so
Claudius was the one who assassinated Caligula. He was the fourth emperor.
Oh.
But he just got to be emperor because he was in the family.
Yeah.
oh, so they didn't really have a voting system till. Didn't they
don't think
eventually
they ever
develop like
really
a
did.
voting?
I think
system?
at first they had one.
But like only members of like the rich could vote I think.
Yeah.
But-
Like
It's
the
like
it's
the
plebeians-
government today.
plebeians couldn't.
The only ones that count are the freaking rich
the only
people.
ones who, yeah, the only ones who get to come.
And it's not like rich. When I say rich, it doesn't mean like the people who are like successful, normal people. It's
Right,
like
it
the
means, like,
super rich
Bill
that nobody,
Gates and,
nobody
yeah,
knows
like
about.
the big dogs that are always behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You don't even know about it.
I agree.
Vespasian, but like the guy, he invented the Colosseum to please rich people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 'Cause
I
they
could
were,
see
they were
that.
planning to
It's
overthrow.
like the NFL.
It literally is like
Yeah,
the
but it's
government
for- it's
mob.
not just
were
for the
planning-
rich
They were
people,
planning
it's-
to
Yeah.
overthrow him, and he's like, "Well, what can I do to distract him?" So he invents the Colosseum.
Yeah, right. To calm
Dude,
down the
it is
crowd.
like
distract
it's
him.
like the Chinese balloon. It's like
Did
COVID.
you guys see the meme where it's the Chinese or the Chinese after they sent their balloon and it's our balloon, it's the Budweiser balloon.
That's
bombing
awesome.
the
around.
Budweiser Zeppelin.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Zeppelin.
Oh yeah, the more you know. Guys, that was 3 sheets to the wind. We talked about the pyramids. Some interesting stuff got brought up. Aliens did it.
Aliens confirmed.
Aliens confirmed. That's what we learned. Illuminati and the government's rigged. They're distracting you from the real.
NFL's rigged.
Go watch Real AF. I'm gonna put that in there.
Go
Go watch.
explore the
Go
pyramids.
listen to Real AF. Go watch it. Support First Form and All American USA companies made in the USA. And have a good week. We'll meet up again later. Thanks for coming out, Malachi.
See you later.